Hi guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Junko as usual, and if you are new to the channel, please subscribe and send it to your family, friends, and anybody else in your network. And make sure to comment at the end of the video. If you like it, if you dislike it, just tell me under the comment section. So today we're going to be talking about the Moors. I've previously talked about the Moors, and I talked about what they actually brought into Europe and everything. But this time around, I want to go even more deeper. When the Moors got into Spain, the people of Spain were suffering from a disease called the Black Plague, which was actually killing them. So first of all, when the Moors got into Spain, they took with them soap and alcohol, which was then called alcohol. You understand? So um, by a period of time, they were able to develop a cure for the Black Plague, which they used to cure the Europeans. At the time the Moors went into Spain, 99.8% of the people of Europe were illiterate. You understand? They could not read or write. And that's because the Roman Empire was destroying all the Kemetic or the Egyptian knowledge. And the Catholic Church was also destroying every document they could lay eyes on and destroying every civilization that they meet along the way. So with that being said, there were no books left to read or to learn from. The Catholic Church wasn't what it was until Constantine. Constantine came in as someone who usurped the church. You understand? He applied the tactics of, if you can beat them, join them. Join them in the sense that he hijacked the religion and took control over it. You understand? So that's his way of joining them. Not like he had to convert into Christianity or anything. No, he did that because he wanted to have power over the religion, because he saw that he could not beat the religion in any way or form. In 332 AD, Emperor Constantine changed the feeling of who Christ was. That is by changing Christ, the extraordinary human being, to Christ, a human God. You understand? So the Egyptian, the Orthodox Egyptian Coptic Church and the Ethiopians didn't want anything to do with it, because they knew that that was a false doctrine that he was bringing into the spiritual belief, into the spiritual belief system. You understand? So that kind of divided the Catholic Church into bits. So the Africans leaving the Catholic Church rendered the empire weak. So Constantine had to merge the church and then the Roman Empire. That is by way of making the emperor the pope of the Roman Church. You understand? But even with that, it wasn't even strong enough to withhold the Vandals that came in from the Germanic areas of Europe. Yeah, so the Vandals came in and then destroyed everything they could lay hands on, right? So at that time, the Roman Empire had this propaganda written on their banners that if you invade the Roman Empire, in fact, you are doomed. But the Vandals did not read or write. As I said in the beginning, like, they were illiterate, so they didn't know what was written on the banner. So they just came in with full force and then destroyed everything, and then destroyed the remaining civilization that the Romans got from the Greeks, and the Greeks, getting from the Egyptians. You understand? So that's how come Europe went into the Dark Ages. Such was the state of Europe until the Moors got into Spain in 710, right? So the Moors were actually minding their business in Africa when Julian came in. Julian, being one of the governors in Spain at the time, came in and then told the general of the Moors that Spain is not in a perfect state. So if they push in a little bit, they could just take over the country and all that. So Julian actually betrayed the Spanish king, being Roderick, right? Due to the fact that Julian took his daughter to the palace to learn, because not many people were literate at the time, like I said. So he took his daughter to learn in the palace, and then the king eventually, defiled his daughter. So he wanted to pay back the king for doing that to his family. So, and this was his way of getting back at the king. So with this knowledge, the general of the Moors, Tariq, assigned one of his officers named Tarif to go on that expedition. So when Tarif got into Spain, he was able to to conquer the border town, and he took control of the port and everything. So any goods that are gonna come into the into Spain at the time, tariff took taxes on top, you know. So the taxes later on became the tariff tax. So yeah, I mean the tariff tax, the tariff tax that we know about, yeah, the tariff tax that I mean Trump and everywhere is, I mean every country is fighting over, you know. Yeah, so that's where the idea of tariffs came about. It was a black man. Yeah, so moving forward, when when Tariff was able to secure that part of Spain, he sent word to Tariq confirming that yeah, indeed Spain was in a very terrible situation, and if they had to push a little bit hard, they're gonna take the whole of Spain. So Tariq organized a big army, and then yeah, they got into Spain and then fought Roderick, and eventually they came out victorious, and then they were able to, I mean, to control the whole of Spain. So a while later they got more interested to acquire more land. So they proceeded to Portugal as well, and then took control of Portugal and added it to it, and then the whole of this part of the world at the time was referred to as Andalusia. You understand? So that's signed the beginning of the Moorish rule in Spain and Portugal. Yeah. So they get into Portugal and Spain at that time. They met the kings and queens of Europe at the time, you know, living in barns with animals all together. And then so they brought the concept of, you know, isolating human homes and, you know, animal homes. You get me? And they brought the uh idea of bathing several times a day. You get me? At first, the Europeans felt like, you know, they didn't have to bath, right? There was one uh, Catholic priestess who was prideful of not bathing for like 6 years or something. Yeah, her name I've forgotten, but in editing I'm gonna put up the name. So yeah, so it wasn't bathing wasn't like an European thing at the time. Yeah, they saw it to be, you know, terrible. You understand? Until the mosque came in, so they built about 800 baths in public spaces so that people would bath, and also they brought in the African mindset. All the castles that we see in Europe right now weren't built by the Europeans. They were built by the Moors. You understand? And for you to see alligators and crocodiles in the moat should tell you, because there were no alligators or crocodiles in Europe at the time. You understand? And also the lions on the shields of the Crusaders, and you know of the English uh, warriors, or however you want to describe them, right? She also tell you that that concept also came from the Africans, because there were no lions in Europe at the time too, even not even ostriches. You understand? So any of these animals you see in Europe should tell you that they were stolen from Africa. Yeah, history also tells us that the Europeans sat at the feet of the Moors and learned so much information that they went up to England and built two universities, namely the Oxford University and then Cambridge University, right? And some Europeans had to also convert to the Islamic religion, because some of the knowledge was circled around the Islamic Ummah alone. So conversion to Islam prompted them to learn even more and also increase their intellectual capabilities. In actual fact, any university in any part of the world, the scholars who moved to establish that university surely sat at the feet of the Moors and learned so much information before they moved to that part of the world to establish those universities, because there were no schools in Europe at the time and there were no books. You understand? Remember earlier I said that the Catholic Church was against knowledge, right? Yeah, that was the reason why the Copernicus was not able to tell the world that the sun was the center of the solar system and not the earth, until on his dying bed. In case you are wondering who Copernicus is the one that formulated the module of the universe, right? So he kept it to himself when he found out that the sun was actually the center of the solar system and not the earth, until his dying bed, because he was afraid that he was going to be killed by the church. The same way the Greeks, you know, the Aristotles, the Platos, the Socrates, were teaching African wisdom, you understand? So the people of Greece accused their philosophers for bringing about a foreign doctrine, you get me? And so doing, they were murdered, beaten, and even exiled, you get me? So if they were actually teaching something that was, I mean, something that originated in Greece, they wouldn't be accused of bringing about foreign doctrine. So that simply tells us that they went somewhere to get that knowledge, which was Egypt. You understand? So basically, this tells us simply that the Egyptians civilized those philosophers for them to bring about the foreign doctrine into Greece. You get the point I'm trying to make. By nature of the Greeks being against their scholars, they were against knowledge. The Catholic Church played the same role, you understand? They didn't want they didn't want schools back then. They just wanted two things: control and containment of the masses, you understand? So in actual sense, they were suffocating intellectual growth, because when the masses, or when the people begin to fathom the skies and question a lot of things, it's going to threaten the Pope's power, you understand? Fast forward, Portugal gained independence from the Moors when Afonso Henrique declared himself King of Portugal. And then centuries later, Ferdinand II of Aragon married Isabella I of Castile. You know, so their marriage united the whole Spanish dominion at the time. And then they were able to build a strong army, which they were able to use to conquer the Moorish rule in 1492. And in 1492, Columbus also set sail. This event was the beginning of the European domination of the world. This brings us the end of the segment, and I appreciate you guys for being with me from the beginning up to end. And make sure you like and then subscribe if you haven't. Give your comments as well. Tell me your mind. Tell me what you think. And also, I see you on the next one. Peace out.